Hey guys, Prison here. I'm profiling my Elementsaber deck for April 2020. This is more of like a beatdown version. I don't have pot of extravagances for this deck. I'd love to run it. I just literally I'm poor. I don't have the money for that, so which is fine. The deck's still fun. You don't have to run it. Honestly, the extract doesn't really matter too. I'll just show you kind of what I'm playing just because I can. But yeah, without further ado, we'll get into it. I play 3 of the boss monster, Elementsaber Poly Mana. Really good. You can send 2 monsters from your hand to graveyard, special summon once per turn. Elementsaber monsters and Elementsaber lords gain effects based on the attributes sent for a summon. So if you send an earth or a wind, they can't be destroyed by battle. A water or fire, they can't be destroyed by card effects. And then a light or dark, they can't be targeted with card effects, which is really good. And it's like a blanket effect, almost like Jinzo. It's continuous. So when he summoned or whatever else, it's not being activated. It's just already active, which is really good. And then for the other Elementsabers, I play 3 Ana. Really good. You can send an Elementsaber monster from your hand to the graveyard, target an Elementsaber monster, except her or Element Lord that's been properly summoned in your graveyard. You can special summon ignoring its summoning conditions. And then all of them have the effect that they can change their attribute while in grave, which is really important for the rest of the deck. But she's kind of your reborn, so it kind of helps you grind game. Then we play 2 Makani. I just recently cut her because I feel like 3 clogs. You can send an Elementsaber monster from your hand to the graveyard, and you add an Elementsaber Elemental Lord from your deck to hand. So she's your searcher. 2 Apalia. When he just spell trap card negation. When spell trap is activated, you can send Elementsaber from your hand to grave and negate it. 1 Malehu is your Book of Moon. You send an Elementsaber from your hand to graveyard. You can flip a monster your opponent controls face down defense position, which is honestly really good even nowadays. Like, you can just flip over problem cards or force effects, and he's got 1900, which comes in handy. And the Poly's got 2100 defense, which comes in handy to kind of like stall. So, and then I play 1 Malu and 1 Nalu. Malo and Nalu. Sorry, guys. They're not the best, honestly. He's a foolish burial for the deck by sending Elementsaber from hand to grave, and Nalu's a monster reincarnation by sending one from hand to grave. She's honestly better than him, but you're just playing for different names because you can only use her change attribute effect once per turn, so you need a couple copies. But yeah, she can add like your lords back that you've used already or your monsters. So yeah, that's it for the Elementsabers. We'll get into the lords. I play a very small amount. 1 Phosphor Age because it is a Regeki, and 1 Wind Rose because it's a Heavy Storm. So you play 1 or either, whichever one you need for the current situation you use. If they're destroyed, you skip your next battle phase, which sucks. He's played by having exactly 5 light monsters. This is played by having exactly 5 wind. Really easy in the deck, so you can just change their attribute. Phosphor Age is even easier to summon because the Polymana is already a light. So, and he can't change his attributes. So while he's in the grave, you only need let's say you have 2 copies of him, you only need 3 Elementsabers to be able to change their attribute to play him, so it makes it a little bit easier. But yeah, I hate drawing them. That's why I'm playing just the ones. They're searchable in the deck, so why play more? 3 Dark Arm because it just came off the list and gave this deck a huge bump. I'm sorry, they're all different rarities. Bite me. If you have exactly 3 dark monsters in your grave, you can special summon it. Literally, we only play 2 main deck dark, and you can change his attributes. So as long as you have 3 Elementsabers in your grave, you will always be able to summon him. Just change 3 of them to dark, leave the rest of the attribute they are, and play him. And then after he's summoned, you can change the rest of the Elementsabers in your grave to dark, and he's not once per turn. So let's say you have all 6 of them in your grave, all the different attributes. Turn 2 of them dark, and leave the Malehu as a dark. Summon him. And then change the other 3 into dark. After summon, you have potentially 6 pops. So, really, really good card in this deck. It kind of just blows out games, which is really cool. And your other boss monster is 3 Blackluster Soldier Envoy at the beginning. It just takes a light and a dark. So literally just change one of them to a light and change one of them to a dark. Banish them, play them. Super good. If he battles an opponent's monster, he can attack again. He can also just banish opponent's monster, but he can't attack that turn. Everybody should know what he does. Really good card. He's now at 3, so why not max out? Because you can play him basically whenever in this deck. The card that makes the deck work. 3 Palace, the Elemental Lords, really cool. All monsters you control gain attack defense equal to the number of different attributes in your grave times 200. And a lot of people don't know is that on top of all the elements, so light, dark, wind, water, fire, and earth, you can also make them divine in Yu-Gi-Oh!, which is another attribute. So, technically, they can gain, let me do the math. I believe it's like 1400 in total. Wind, water, fire, earth. water, no, wind, water, fire, earth, light, dark. Yeah, 14, guys. Sorry about that. Which is super cool. But what actually makes this really good is you can add an Elementsaber monster from your deck to your hand, but you skip your next battle phase of the next turn. And then once turn, if an Elementsaber monster in your hand would activate their effect, you send from deck. So literally this deck revolves around having that field spell. It can give all of your monsters a buff so you can beat over things. It lets you search for what you need. And the cool thing is it skips your next battle phase. You can search for what you need and beat him that turn if you have to. And then it lets you send from deck. So like your mana will set up, that's why you play 3 of the boss. He sets up all your plays. Him plus the field spell is great. Summon him, you send 2 of whatever one you need from the deck to grave, so you can have whatever protection effect off of him and then continue your turn. So, really good. Then we play the sad 1 terraforming. Wish you could play more, so I do play 1 demise the land in the deck. Really good. You can just, when your opponent would special summon a monster off demise the land, you can activate the field spell straight from deck, which is awesome. It helps this deck out a lot. And then terraforming, obviously you can search it. I'm actually not running Metaverse in my build. I'm probably going to add it in. It's just kind of slow, so we'll see. Next, I'm playing 3 Perform Popper Up. This card's amazing in this deck. You send with 3 cards from hand to graveyard and you draw that many cards. The only downside is you take 1,000 for each card in your hand, so, which, I mean, if you don't even have your field spell, you'll make the cards out of your hand quick. But basically, it just fills your grave up with Elementsabers. You just, like, let's say you open up 3 monsters, just ditch them all to grave, and then you could possibly draw into, like, Lords or your field spell or Dark-Armed Dragon or PLS, so really good. Helps you draw, helps you fill up your grave. Same with card destruction. Have a whole hand Elementsaber, send them to the grave, draw a new hand of stuff that might actually work for you. We play 1 Upstart. Like I said, if I had Extravagance, I would play Extravagance in here too, like in a heartbeat, but I don't. So, I'm play Upstart. I don't want to play Desires because I don't want to banish my Elementsaber monsters or my field spell, especially the field spell. You lose without it, so it's just too risky. I play 1 Reinforcement of the Army. It literally searches out every Elementsaber but Lapallia Mana. 1 Scapegoat. It's free protection, and it kind of helps you go into a monster in the extra deck that I believe is the only important one that you could be playing for this deck. 1 Instant Fusion, just because Thousand Eyes is a good out to cards. Then I play the 2 Forbidden Chalice, just for monster effects. I'm honestly thinking about cutting the 1 for Metaverse, and you could cut the other one for Bottom Extravagance if you have one. And if I was to play probably like 2 other Extravagances, I'd probably just cut the Scapegoat and the Instant Fusion, but, you know. So I am playing this for just a little bit of protection for monsters so you can get over things, make sure they can't pop your field spell, stuff like that. And then for the only trap, I'm playing 3 Elemental Training. Really good card. Your opponent can't target Palace the Elemental Lords you control with card effects. It can't be destroyed by card effects either. And then once printing, tribute a monster and special summon an Elementsaber from your deck with a different original attribute. You can also send this face-up card from the field to the graveyard and discard your entire hand. You add an Elemental Lord monster from your grave equal to the number of cards discarded. So like let's say you have like your Phosphorage, you just send that in your entire hand, add them to hand, you can activate it so it's some recursion. It also makes sure that your palace, it's basically a field barrier for your palace, but it's archetype specific. And what's cool about this card is it can fill your grave too. So like during your turn, you can use the tribute to play 1, and then during your opponents, if you have palace out, you can use the tribute 1 to get something that you need for a certain situation for that turn, and fill your grave up with an Elementsaber for different attributes, which is really cool. So like let's say you have an Makani used on your turn, or whatever else, you flip that up during your opponent's tribute her and go into like a Lapallia, so you have Spell and Trap card Negation, or a Malehu, so you have Interruption. So, really good card. Plus, it just protects Palace, so why wouldn't you want to run it? Alright guys, we'll go on to the extra deck. This is the only really important card in here. 2 Barricade Board Blocker. If he's Link Summon, you discard a card, and then during the end phase of turn, you add a continuous or field spell from your grave to hand. So you just recycles your field spell that you need, and then once per turn, phase of field spell you control cannot be destroyed by your opponent's card effect, so it gives you a little bit more protection. Then we run 1 Space Insulator. That's why the Scapegoat matters. This is just 2 monsters with different names. Space Insulator is 2 monsters. So we do run Link Kariba as well to use for the tokens, so then you can just go into this guy and use his effect and whatever else you need. And then for the Link Karibo, I'm also running a Relinquished Anima and then 1,000 Eyes Restrict for the Instant Fusion. So you can go into Link Karibo if you need 1,000 Eyes, or depending on the situation, you have Anima to play since you have a lot of extra deck space. And just you can take a monster that your opponent controls with Restrict, get rid of it, and then take a monster he's pointing at. So you can get rid of 2 monsters potentially, which is really cool. And then Nightmares, I play 1 Phoenix to pop spell and traps, and you can discard a card so you fill your grave. Unicorn, just shuffle back floodgates or monsters, fills your grave by discarding them from hand. And then I do have 1 Saber, the Lightning Shadow, and then 1 Power Code Talker. He's a pretty beefy 2600 that you can go into off of like 3 tokens with your Scapegoat. If you don't have anything to point at with Transcode Talker, if you do, like, you can get rid of 3 of the tokens, play him pointing at 1, and then tribute it to get its effect, to like negate a monster effect and then doubles attack. So he's really good. Off Scapegoat, you can have a 4600 and you can negate something's attack, so you can beat over it, which is super good. Yeah. And then for the last of the links, play 1 Topologic Trisbane, especially summon a monster zone at points 2. It banishes all spells and traps. Which kind of sucks because it hurts your field spell, but against certain decks you kind of need it. Topologic Bomber Dragon, especially summon to a zone at points 2. Like a monster in the main monster zone, it blows up every monster in the main monster zone. So like in this deck, you can make some link plays like late game, because this deck does take a while to pick up speed. And you can special summon something like Aina and trigger it, or whatever you want. Then we play 1 Saryuja Skull Dread just for the free draw on the special summon if you need it. Doesn't really come up very often, but you can get 2+ monsters with different names pretty easy in this deck with Aina and the Polymana and your Lords and all the other cards you can special summon. We won 1 Topologic Zeraboros just because you do banish a lot in this deck with Dark Armed and BLS, so it can get really beefy. His other effect I don't normally use, but he gains 2 attack for each banish card, so that can help you out. And if your opponent's running Desires, you go against like Necrophase or Gunmanju. Card's pretty busted. And then last one we play is 1 Borlo Dragon. Just 3+ effect monsters, snatch, steal, battle, something you take it. So literally it's just an out to any big boss monster. But yeah, guys, that's the deck. Like I said, I would play 3 Pot of Extravagance in here if I could. If ever I can pick up the card or it gets reprinted, which I hope it does at some point, I will play it. And I honestly need a Metaverse in here. Honestly, before the video started, I thought that I had one in here. I didn't. I would probably honestly cut like a Forbidden Chalice for it, or you could cut Upstart Goblin, because you don't have to run it. Like 39 card deck's great, but if you have a better card to put in front of it, you could put Metaverse over Upstart and then leave the Forbidden Chalices for monster negation. But yeah, guys, that is my Elementsaber Beatdown deck. I hope you enjoyed. Like, comment, and subscribe, and I will see you later.